Bishop Desmond Tutu stood up before the crowd on the opening day and he said, "I'd like to welcome you all home." We're all Africans, and one of the things that may be a little bit uncomfortable in doing some of this is that we all are human, we all are the same, and we all originate from the same place. Difference is important at a cultural level, but that's all it is important in. We're all Africans. We all came out of Africa. This is a map showing the origins of modern humans coming out of Africa approximately 100,000 years ago. It's also interesting to note that recent studies have shown that modern humans got to Australia long before they got to Europe. And the humans that come into Europe about 40,000 years ago and moved into what I will call the Northern Isles for now, for want of a better word. And if you're interested in this topic, there's a wonderful book called Out of Eden by Stephen Oppenheimer, and it explains how humans moved around the world from that period, out of Africa experience. I'm going to talk a bit about how people got to these northern islands. For their size, these two islands have had a big influence in the world, for good and bad. We'll talk about that more later on. But the first thing I want to point out is that sometime around 10,000 BC, some people, modern humans, came over from Europe, which is a lot later than settlement in much of Europe, which was 40,000 years, 30,000 years earlier, because most of these islands were covered in ice. People then spread through the island and at some point crossed over the Irish Sea, the 16 kilometres between Ireland and Scotland, and settled in Ireland, and they spread throughout Ireland. There is an alternative theory about how some of the people came to Ireland, and that is what they call the Atlanteans, and the possibility that people came up from the coast of northern Spain, Portugal, and recent DNA studies have shown a rather interesting link between the people of the west of Ireland around Galway and Connemara and the people of the Basque country, which is very interesting because, as some of you may know, the language of the Basques is one of those great mysteries of Europe. So that's how we all came here, and at this point we were all the same. The people on both islands were pretty much the same people. Next came the Romans. Now the Romans are an interesting element in this because, as you'll see, they had a different effect on different parts, and this is how things begin to change on the two islands. So the Romans arrived, Julius Caesar, 43 AD, famous statement, Veni, Vidi, Vici. He came, he saw, and he conquered what is largely, I would call, the southern part of the main island, if you like. And this was Roman Britain. And the important thing, of course, the Romans, and this was the beginnings too of some of the, let's say, what I would call propaganda about the Irish and the Scots particularly. They built a wall called Hadrian's Wall to try and keep the savages, as it were, from the north out. And they even built a second wall further north called the Antonine Wall. And in the middle, between the two walls, they had some influence. But the important thing to know about this is that the Romans never got to Scotland, to most of Scotland, and they never came to Ireland. There was probably trade. In fact, there certainly was trade. And worse still, there was slaves taken. Irish pirates raided the coast of Britain, of Roman Britain, to take slaves to Ireland. So the next now, and this is where things diverge even further. The Angles and the Saxons arrived from Europe. First, the Romans left. As the Roman Empire began to contract and they needed soldiers back in Rome to defend Rome, they left Britain, and to a certain extent left it slightly, not defenseless, but certainly there's still a lot of debate about how the Angles and Saxons arrived in England without any resistance. And the second great mystery is that they brought their language with them. Germanic tribes had come through Europe at this period to many places, the Franks in modern-day France, the Visigoths, the Lombards, but they all adopted the language that was there already, the Latin-based languages of French, Spanish, Italian. But in England, the existing Latin language didn't continue, and there's some great debate as to why that is, but irrelevant as to it really doesn't matter why. For our discussion here tonight, it happened, and the Angles and Saxons brought their language with them. And this is what they called Anglo-Saxon England. And if you look at it carefully, you'll notice that Cornwall in the southwest, Wales and Scotland and Ireland were not part of the Anglo-Saxon kingdom. In fact, the Anglo-Saxon kingdom, there was a lot of interaction between what you would have called the Celtic people and the Anglo-Saxons. And the original Celtic people of England did not go away. They mixed with the Anglo-Saxons. But in the other parts, you have the Irish and the Scots. Now, the names Scots and Irish are largely interchangeable in a lot of the historical record because we were pretty much the same people. We still are. But in the north east of Scotland, you had the Picts. Not a lot is known about them except that they did have some language similarities. Then you had the Welsh, and further south, the Cornish. These groups have different language skills, but the interesting thing that, again, and not a lot of people, not even a lot of Irish people know this, but at this period there was a kingdom in the north of Ireland, which was also part of, Scotland was part of it, called Dal Riada. And a lot of the early monks that travelled up into Scotland, they were actually travelling within the same kingdom. There was another little known kingdom in the south of Ireland, the south coast, which was part of Wales, was part of that kingdom. And the modern part of Wales called Dyfed is a remnant of that. And if you travel to that part of Wales, you will find artifacts from Irish tradition at that time, notably Ogham stones. So it was a complex map at that time, but still Anglo-Saxon England was one corner of the two islands.